Tens of thousands of people are getting cheques out of the blue from HSBC. The amounts range from £25 to more than £1,000. Some people who get one think it's a scam. Well, it's not. The bank is sending them to its own customers and those of its subsidiaries, First Direct, M&S Bank and John Lewis Finance, if they had arrears on any kind of financial product, such as loans, overdrafts and credit cards, between 2010 and 2019. Leighton lives in Hove. He's one of many affected. He closed his HSBC account 6 years ago, but recently received a cheque from the bank for more than £1,100.
So I got back one day from work and there's a pile of letters, and I thought it was just a random, either this is what you owe us for something else or some change of policy, which seems to be happening a lot. And then it was a one-sheet A4 letter, and at the bottom of it was a perforated section with a cheque. And the cheque was for 1,100 and something. And in a brief description, it basically said, reviewed for the last 10 years, this account, which happens to be an account I don't have with them anymore. And we have decided to refund you some charges.
Well, the bank has confirmed to us that £223 million was set aside for this programme, but details of what it's doing exactly are hard to get. Our reporter Joyce Etutu, has been looking into this. Joyce, a nice surprise for Leighton and many others, but what have you found out about this scheme?
Yes, so Paul, HSBC has been making payments to people who were in arrears with things like their loans, overdrafts and credit cards between 2010 and 2019 as part of a remediation programme. Although there's only one scheme, the payments are to make up for two different things. So one set of payments is for people who didn't receive a good customer experience, and another is for people who had fees and charges that they should not have been made to pay. I spoke to Michael Adenil from Milton Keynes, who received two cheques. One was for £25 and the other was for just over £360. He got into debt after taking a loan to get a vehicle. His debt gave him a great deal of anxiety, and this is what he remembers from the service he was given all those years ago.
Zero help. In fact, if I was to say anything from memory, I was actually really kind of fighting them. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I was struggling to pay my debt at the time, so I kind of understand it. But, they did nothing to help the situation, and there was nothing. There's not even calls what went on, to be fair, really. Like, it was that minimum thing. Like, to get these checks and see this, I'm thinking, what's this for?
The bank says that those payments were made following a review of historical collections and recoveries practices in the UK. This is backed up by a letter Michael received which said they were paying him for poor service. They didn't actually specify what that meant in writing, but HSBC have told us poor service included things like poorly worded letters.
And have all the payments now been made?
Well, HSBC say the programme is close to completion, but couldn't give me an exact figure on how many people are yet to receive their payments. They say all customers who needed to be contacted have already been contacted.
Are people being alerted? Are they being told in advance they're going to get any money?
No, they're not. So HSBC haven't publicly announced that they're doing this. They say they were directly contacting customers who have been impacted, as that was the most appropriate thing to do. Otherwise, people would contact them to ask if they're included, and the vast majority of them are not.
And they do get a letter, but does that set out exactly what this cheque is for?
Not particularly. Speaking to Leighton, who we heard from earlier, he told me there was a very brief description detailing they had reviewed accounts over the last 10 years and that they wanted to refund him some charges he paid.
I would say I didn't think it was necessarily genuine to start with, because it was a lot of money to me with a very little description. So that made me think this could be scammy. I could have as easily opened that letter had I had been tired or not thinking straight and thrown it away as you do with the bombardment of information you get from HSBC. It didn't spell out clearly, this is money we're giving you.
So, Joyce, what should people do if they get a cheque?
Well, these payouts are entirely legitimate, so people should pay in their checks. That being said, it's always good to be cautious of scams, especially if you're contacted out of the blue. If you receive an unexpected check through the post, make sure the details on the letter relate to an account you currently or previously held. If you're in any doubt at all, contact the bank to check and find the number for yourself rather than relying on the details in the letter. But if a customer has thrown away a cheque, or if the bank notices that a cheque hasn't been cashed, a reminder or replacement is automatically sent out.
Yeah, this is a big programme. Do we know why HSBC is doing it? Has it been lent on by the regulator, the Ombudsman?
Well, the Financial Conduct Authority are aware of these payments, but they say they can't say anything else on it. The Financial Ombudsman Service are also aware of these payments, but there's still no clarity on what has prompted HSBC to do this.
And do we even know how it's worked out what payment customers should get?
Well, HSBC say the remediation programme has been looked at very carefully and they think it's fair. Michael, who we spoke to, was unsatisfied with his £25 cheque and is planning to send a letter to challenge it.
So that might end up with the Ombudsman, which could be interesting. Joyce Etutu, thanks very much. And do let us know your checks out of the blue experiences. I must say, I've never had one. This week, the ban on